If you're newer to Jiu-Jitsu, you've probably been stuck underneath someone's side control. Today I'm going to show you how to stop getting stuck in side control, and if you do get stuck there, I'm going to show you two really easy and kind of funny ways that work really well to get out of side control. So if you're struggling in that position, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. First off, we're covering frames. Now, frames are something that we learned very early on, but I still see people not doing them correctly. Keep in mind that when you're using frames, you're using the structure of your skeleton and not the energy or the strength of your muscles. Frames that you create with your bones are going to be stronger and last much longer than frames that you're trying to create with muscle or strength. But also there's a missing element here. Many of you are not being a pain in the butt with your frames. This is a big part of framing. Not only are you keeping yourself safe, you're giving your opponent another problem to deal with. So as we check the example, you can see this is how most white belts use their frames. You can see I'm being very lackadaisical. My hands are close to my body. I'm not really pushing my elbows or my forearms into my opponent's neck or hips. Now, if we switch it, and I'm showing you how I would use my frames now, after 10 years of training, I'm jamming my forearms into my opponent's throat, into and underneath his jawline. I'm turning his face away. I'm making it uncomfortable for him to pressure into me. All the while, if you watch my left arm, my frame on his hip is driving him back. I'm being active, right? I'm pushing my shoulder blades forward and I'm pushing my forearms forward into those pockets where they fit, whether it be the hips or just underneath the jawline. The more problematic you can be with your frames, the bigger pain in the butt you're going to be for your opponent trying to do what he wants to do. Now, some of you are probably going to run with this and be exaggerated with it, so let's set some parameters. I don't want you extending so far that your frames become targets for joint locks. You have to remember, a reaching arm is a broken arm. If your frames turn into a reach, expect them to go for a joint lock, like an arm bar or a Kimura or something, right? So you want to keep a nice 90-degree-ish angle in your elbow and upper arm. And usually that's enough that you can be a pain in the butt with your forearms while not putting yourself in too bad of a position. Truly become a problem with your frames, and it'll make your life a lot easier when you're stuck on bottom and side control. Most people don't realize this, but your gear can either help you or hold you back. Now, I've been training in Jiu-Jitsu gear for a long time, and most of it looks good online, but falls apart when it actually matters. That's exactly why I wear X Martial. This isn't just clean designs, it's performance-built gear. You get a compression fit that actually moves with you, durability that holds up during the hardest of rounds, and designs that don't look like every other basic rash guard on the mat. Whether you're drilling, competing, or going to war with one of your favorite training partners, X Martial is built for it. It's lightweight, it's breathable, and it's made for people who actually train. If you're serious about your jiu-jitsu, your attire should match that. So go check out X Martial, grab yourself a set or 2 or 3, and if you're smart, you use my code IRONWILL to save yourself some money. Train harder, roll longer, and look sharp doing it. Let's get back to the video. One of my biggest tips that I like to give newcomers is that you don't move your opponent, you move yourself. I can't tell you how many times I see new people come in here and they're trying to bench press their opponent off them. They're trying to sit up and push their opponent away. They're trying to move their opponent. It is so much easier to move yourself. And this is a principle that you're going to see all over the place in Jiu-Jitsu if you train long enough. So as we check the example, you can see here that I'm pressing on my training partner as hard as I can in this position. And I can bench press a fair amount of weight. The best bench press I ever hit in my life was 405. And although I'm probably not there right now, I'm pretty close. It's safe to say that I'm not a weak man. And even with that power pressing off onto my opponent, it makes no sense. Not only is it gassing me and taking up all my energy trying to make this happen, it's ineffective. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be trapped underneath him, tired. And I know just about every white belt can raise their hand and say, yeah, that's been me in the past. It's been me. Certainly it's been me in the past. So instead, what I want you to focus on is moving your body away and then incorporating your legs. So if we take the lessons we learned in chapter 1, being a pain in the butt with our frames, by setting those frames, it also gives me a little bit of room. So now I can walk my hips out and away from my opponent like the example shows. And in doing this, it allows me to slingshot my lower shin back across my opponent's waist. And in doing so, I can create space, regain my guard, get to a better place than being stuck under someone's side control. All of this happened because I framed and I moved my body rather than trying to move his. It's a very simple principle, but it is so very effective. And I've noticed in my training that white belts typically don't involve their legs all that much. White belts are usually very upper body dominant. Learn to use your legs. Your legs are the strongest things on you. Your legs are incredibly strong, much stronger than your arms. Why would you not use them? Learn to use your legs in your grappling, and it's going to take you to the next level a lot faster than someone who's just trying to use their upper body the whole time. Don't try to move your opponent. Set your frames and move yourself. Now, last but certainly not least, we're gonna cover 2 sweeps that you can use being stuck underneath someone's side control to get you out of there. First off, I call this one the steamroller. I like this because it is so easy. It's silly easy to do. Once you get the mechanics down, you're gonna hit this on so many different people. It's gonna be great. So as you can see here, we're in side control. So as we check the example, I'm stuck underneath my opponent's side control. I'm going to punch the frame that's underneath his jawline up so that my elbow is above his head. From here, I then wrap my arm over the back of his head, bending his spine over my body. And then I'm gonna use the frame of my left arm to encourage his weight more in the direction that his head is facing. For any sweep like this to work, we want them to commit their weight too far to one side or the other. So in this case, I want his chest to be beyond mine, and I use my left frame, pushing him in the direction of his head to achieve that. Now from here, this is where usually people make the mistake. This is what I would call a failure point. People try to bridge and roll to 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So if you're gonna picture that you're a clock, your head is 12, your feet are 6, do not bridge them and roll them to 3 or 6. You might still be able to make that work, but if that's how you're doing it, it's unnecessarily difficult. What I want you to do is to bridge and roll to, let's say, 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So diagonally over your shoulder. In doing this, you're cutting the angle and you don't have to deal with all of their body weight. So if this is someone who's bigger than you, definitely cut that angle and go to 11 or 1. Because if you go to 9 or 3, you're gonna be rolling all of their body weight, and it's just unnecessarily difficult to do it that way. As you progress at this sweep, you can start to catch people in motion with it, which is really fun. I've also found that once my frames are set, if I try to bridge into my opponent, almost like I'm trying to get him to sit on his butt, and in doing that, he's pushing back into me. So as he's pushing me back down to the ground, I punch my arm up, wrap over the top of his head, and I'm using his momentum to encourage his weight to go too far over on my torso. From there, making it very easy to bridge to 11 or 1, using that frame that's in his hip to send him flying. Just like every move I tell you guys about, if this is something you've never tried before, expect to not be great at it. Just give yourself some grace, be patient with it. With enough reps, you're gonna be hitting this, and I think you're gonna see that it is just that easy. Now this next and final sweep, I don't know the technical name for it. I've always called it a neck crank sweep. But if you guys know it by another name, if your gym calls it something, drop it in the comments because I'm looking for a name on this one. But I learned this at Blue Belt and it's been working for me ever since. So as we check the example, you see that my opponent's got me in side control. If he makes the mistake and puts his arm on the other side of my head, like you see here, all I need to do is frame into his armpit and get my right arm, or my north side arm, the arm that's closest to his head, underneath his armpit, and I punch it straight up. Once I'm here, I can then wrap my arm underneath his head, around his neck, and I gable grip near the back of his neck. Now he's in a compromised position once we lock this up. From here, all I need to do is bridge and roll over my own shoulder. It'll be very easy to do because he doesn't have an arm to post with. You're also gonna notice that his spine is gonna be slightly bent, making him much more weak overall. And if you've been with me for a while, you know this is something I like to focus on. If I can put a bend in your spine, it weakens you drastically all throughout your body. This is why we bench press and deadlift and squat with a straight spine. If you bend your spine, you're going to only be able to do a fraction of the numbers that you were doing with a straight spine. So a little tidbit for those of you who've never heard that before, you can put a bend or a twist in someone's spine, do it. It will make your life easier. And as you can see, you know, you're getting out of side control and ending up in a dominant position. There's so much you can do from being on top. It truly doesn't take a lot of energy. It doesn't take a lot of strength. It's just technical. And once you set this thing in motion, I think you're gonna see just how easy it is to do. It may take some reps, but it's truly worth the effort. And those are some of my favorite tips on how to not get stuck in side control anymore. Obviously, this could be an art in and of itself within Jiu-Jitsu, a sub-art, if you will. So just like I said earlier with the submissions, be patient, be good to yourself. Don't freak out if you're not doing something right away. I can't tell you how many submissions I gave up on as a white belt because I thought I couldn't do it, and then revisit them later as a purple, brown, black belt. And I'm like, wow, I just needed a little more experience. This stuff works great. So just be patient with yourself. With enough reps, you're gonna do fantastic. If you've been training for a while and you have a favorite way to get out of side control, drop it in the comments. We're all learning from each other, including myself. With that, guys, you know how I like to end them. New videos every Monday, sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.